When a king sends golden promises, danger rarely knocks like danger. It arrives dressed like opportunity. Balaam was doing very well. He had status, reputation, and the kind of resume no one could verify but everyone respected. Kings knew his name. Nations knew his reputation. If Balaam blessed something, people felt safer. If Balaam cursed something, people suddenly reviewed their life choices. So when King Balak got nervous, Balaam was the first expensive idea that came to mind. Balak had been watching Israel move across the land like a deadline no one could postpone. They were numerous, disciplined, and strangely hard to stop. Every report sounded less like news and more like a warning. To Balak, this was not migration. This was pressure approaching. So he did what frightened rulers often do. He tried to solve tomorrow with money today. Messengers arrived at Balaam's door dressed in wealth, carrying rewards heavy enough to bend principles on contact. These were elite officials, clean robes, confident posture, faces trained to look important in silence. They brought compliments first. They always do. King Balak requests your presence. Translation, someone powerful needs help. Then came the real sentence. There is a people too mighty for us. Come curse them for me. Clear request, fast timeline, excellent compensation, deeply suspicious atmosphere. The payment gleamed in the light. Gold has a talent for making bad ideas look professionally packaged. It felt like receiving $1 million job offer with one small issue. No one would explain the company. Great salary, immediate start, several moral concerns. Balaam did not say yes. That part sounded wise. He said he would wait through the night and seek an answer first. Very cautious, very respectable, very easy to misread. Because delay is not always wisdom. Sometimes delay is desire buying paperwork. The visitors stayed. The reward stayed. The possibility stayed. And temptation rarely breaks a window. It usually waits politely in the guest room. Balaam knew enough to recognize danger. Kings do not rush this hard for clean business. Large payments usually come attached to invisible strings. Urgent honor often hides impatient control. He knew all of that. But knowing a trap and wanting the cheese have ended many careers. The invitation came polished. The fall was already hidden in the fine print. Night passed slowly. The bags of reward did not become less heavy. The offer did not become less attractive. And somewhere inside Balaam, the first compromise had already started rehearsing itself. He had not packed. He had not traveled. He had not agreed. Not publicly. Because the first yes does not always leave through the mouth. Sometimes it settles quietly in the pocket first. By sunrise, nothing had happened. Which was the problem? Because some disasters begin long before the first step. And when morning finally came, Balaam was already closer to the road than he realized. The do not go had been clear. Balaam answered it the way many people answer clear warnings. Yes, but what if? During the night, Balaam sought an answer. And the answer was direct. Do not go with them, do not curse those people, they are blessed. Short message, no mystery, no hidden symbolism, no need for a committee meeting. It was the kind of instruction even a distracted person could understand. So in the morning, Balaam stepped outside and delivered the response. He told Balak's officials he could not go. Technically correct. Clean wording, respectable tone. But there is a difference between rejecting an offer and keeping the door emotionally unlocked. The messengers left, and for a moment that should have been the end of the story. It was not. Because some temptations do not leave after the first no. They come back upgraded. Balak sent another delegation, more officials, more status, more importance, probably better robes. This was no longer a request, it was a premium request. They arrived with a stronger pitch, larger promises, and the ancient version of unlimited compensation. Let nothing stop you from coming. Always a suspicious sentence. Then came the money line. I will reward you richly. There it was again. The offer had returned with a louder voice and shinier packaging. It was like getting a security warning that says, unsafe site ahead. And then clicking proceed anyway, because the website had better graphics this time. Balaam knew the answer already. That was the problem. He did not need new guidance. He wanted revised guidance. So instead of ending the conversation immediately, He invited them to stay the night again. Second review. Second delay. Second attempt to make a closed door feel negotiable. He even sounded noble while doing it. Stay here tonight, and I will see what more may be said. What more? The instruction had already been painfully clear, but when desire dislikes an answer, it often asks for updates. Balaam had not broken the command. Not officially. He had simply begun sanding the edges off it. That is how many bad decisions start. Not with rebellion, with reinterpretation. Night came again. The officials rested again. The rewards remained visible again. And Balaam waited again, hoping certainty might become flexible. People still do this constantly. Doctor says stop. Budget says no. Warning sign says danger. But somewhere inside the mind, a small voice says, yes, but maybe in my case. By now, Balaam was standing on a slope and asking gravity for one small exception. He wanted permission to keep wanting what had already been denied. And once a person starts negotiating with clear truth, the road ahead usually gets expensive. Morning approached. The visitors were ready. The animals would soon be saddled. Nothing dramatic had happened yet. No lightning, no collapse, no public disgrace. Just a man repeatedly leaning toward the thing he had been told to leave alone, which is how many collapses look in the early stages. Quiet, reasonable, well-spoken, and already moving downhill. The prophet did not see the angel. The donkey did. And that was about to become very awkward. By morning, Balaam had what he wanted. Permission close enough to call permission, a road to travel, and the strong confidence of a man who had mistaken persistence for approval. He saddled his donkey, joined the officials, and headed out smiling toward opportunity. Ahead of him stood an angel with a drawn sword. Balaam saw open road. The donkey saw immediate death, so the donkey turned sharply into a field. Balaam, who believed he understood the situation perfectly, struck the animal and forced it back. They continued. Soon the road tightened between vineyard walls. Stone on the left, stone on the right. No room for elegance. The angel stood there again. The donkey saw him again. Trying to avoid the sword, the animal pressed against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot. Now Balaam was angry and injured, which is a dangerous combination for clear thinking. He struck the donkey again. They moved forward a third time. At this point, most people would notice a pattern: unexpected resistance, repeated detours, increasing pain. But Balaam was busy blaming transportation. The path narrowed further until there was nowhere left to turn, nowhere left to squeeze, nowhere left to fake control. The angel stood there once more. The donkey simply lay down. Journey over. Officials watching. Dignity unstable. Balaam exploded and beat the animal again. Then the strangest argument on the road began. The donkey spoke. "What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times?" A fair question. Also not something people usually hear from their commute. What happened next may be even stranger. Balaam answered immediately. No pause, no shock, no moment of, "Why is my donkey speaking fluent criticism?" Just instant argument. "Because you made a fool of me." True, but not for the reason he thought. It was like a GPS saying, "Make a U-turn now," while the driver screamed at the dashboard and accelerated toward a lake. The donkey continued. "Have I not always served you? Have I ever acted like this before?" Also fair. Years of loyalty. One unusual morning. That should have triggered reflection. Instead, Balaam kept debating with the only creature currently making sense. Then his eyes were opened. He finally saw the angel standing in the road, sword drawn, blocking the path he had fought so hard to take. Suddenly, everything connected. The field turn, the crushed foot, the collapse, the delays. The donkey had not been ruining his plans. It had been saving his life repeatedly. Manual for humility, being corrected by someone who had never spoken a word. Balaam bowed low, now fully aware that the wisest traveler on the road had 4 legs. The miracle was not that the donkey talked. The miracle was that Balaam still thought he should continue. The road remained open, technically, but his credibility had already stopped 3 turns back. He climbed to curse them. Only blessing came out, and nobody could mute the microphone. By this point, Balaam had traveled the road, embarrassed himself in front of officials and been corrected by a talking donkey. Most people would have taken that as a sign to reconsider the day. Instead, they organized a ceremony. King Balak was determined to get results the expensive way. Altars were built across the high place. Sacrifices were arranged with polished urgency. Smoke lifted into the sky. Servants rushed in every direction. Officials stood nearby trying to look confident in a situation that was becoming difficult to defend. It looked impressive. It also looked costly. Balak brought Balaam to the overlook and pointed toward Israel spread below across the land. There they were, organized, numerous, still existing. Balak gave the instruction plainly. Curse them. Balaam stepped forward, opened his mouth and began to speak. Everyone listened, everyone waited, and then everything went wrong for the man paying the bill. Blessing came out, honor, strength, protection, favor, the exact opposite of the requested service. Balak turned in disbelief. What have you done to me? A fair question from someone funding disaster in installments. Balaam answered with the only truth left available. I can only speak what I am given to speak. Correct, late but correct. Balak decided the problem must be environmental. Maybe the mountain was unlucky. Maybe the angle was wrong. Maybe curses needed better reception. So they moved. A second location was chosen. More altars were built. More sacrifices were offered. More money disappeared into smoke. The ancient version of refreshing the page and expecting different results. Again, Balaam stood ready. Again, Balak waited. Again, Balaam spoke. Again, blessing came out. The script was cursing. The leaked audio was grace. Balak's patience was now surviving on fumes. Every new attempt created the same public humiliation with added expenses. So naturally, they tried a third time, another high place, another view, another round of altars, another expensive hope refusing to learn. By now, even the servants were probably exchanging looks. Balaam gazed over Israel once more and spoke again. Blessing, victory, increase, protection, a future. Everything Balak least wanted, converted into public speech. He had hired a specialist to weaken his enemies and accidentally sponsored a live celebration of them 3 times in a row. It was the ancient version of hosting a carefully rehearsed press conference, only for the spokesperson to praise your rivals on every microphone. Balak had heard enough. No more speeches, no more mountains, no more strategic sacrifices, no more pretending this might suddenly turn around. But it was already too late. The words had gone out. The officials had heard them, the king had paid for them, and every new altar only repeated the same divine bug. Balaam didn't fall on the mountain. He fell when he put his foot outside the house. By the time the mountains were silent again, the altars were spent. The king was furious, and Balaam had completed one of history's most unnecessary career detours. From far away, it looked like the disaster happened at the top. That was where the speeches went wrong. That was where the king lost patience. That was where the plan publicly collapsed. But public collapse is usually late-stage news. The real damage tends to happen earlier, when everything still feels small, manageable, and easy to rename. For Balaam, it began the moment he stepped toward what should have been left alone. The first invitation looked polished. The first reward looked harmless. The first delay looked wise. The first compromise barely looked like compromise at all. That is how dangerous roads begin. Not with alarms, with options. Looking back, the entire story could be summarized clearly. Shining invitation, ignored warning, talking donkey, involuntary blessing, salted reputation. That was the route. Straight, visible, and expensive. People still travel versions of it every day. A tempting offer appears. A clear warning interrupts. Desire requests a second opinion. Common sense gets ignored. Embarrassment arrives on schedule. When maybe defeats no, the road already comes with a fine attached. Balaam had real gifts, influence, reputation, access, skill. That was never the issue. Talent can create opportunity, while wisdom is quietly packing to leave. He didn't fail for lack of gift. He failed by negotiating direction. That is still how many capable people ruin themselves. Not because they cannot succeed, because they keep succeeding toward the wrong place. At each step, Balaam probably had language ready to justify it. Just considering, just listening, just asking again, just taking the trip, just seeing what happens, just doing the assignment. Bad decisions love the word just. It shrinks consequences to a comfortable size, and tempting offers rarely advertise honestly. Tempting offer, paid in installments of regret. By the time Balaam stood on the mountain, most of the important decisions were already behind him. The altars, the speeches, the royal anger, the public embarrassment, those were consequences arriving late and loudly. The true turning point had happened earlier, in private, while the door was still open and the first step still felt reversible. That is where many endings are written, quietly, before they become obvious. So Balaam became a warning larger than the payment he chased. A person can hear truth clearly, speak impressively, and still walk himself into preventable trouble one reasonable step at a time. Because the loudest collapse is rarely the first one. The first one is usually small enough to defend, and by the time everyone else can see it, the road has been traveled for a while.